In the rugged heart of the Caucasus, a medieval kingdom rose that stood as both shield and beacon. Medieval Georgia. Its mountains, rivers, and valleys became the natural fortress of a Christian realm surrounded by great empires. Georgia's story belonged to the larger currents of Caucasus history, where Persians, Byzantines, and Arabs had once left their mark. Yet by the late 10th and early 11th centuries, Georgia began to unify, forging a powerful Eastern European kingdom rooted in medieval Christianity. Here, stone churches crowned high ridges, fortresses guarded passes, and a people found identity in both faith and sword. The Kingdom of Georgia was more than a frontier. It was a cultural crossroads, destined to shine in the medieval world. The roots of medieval Georgia stretched deep into Caucasus history. Long before unification, the region was divided into small principalities, Kartli, Kakheti, and Imereti. Each bore its own traditions, but shared devotion to medieval Christianity. When the Byzantine Empire spread its influence, Georgian nobles absorbed its culture, adopting elements of Eastern Orthodox faith and architecture. At the same time, Persia's shadow loomed, bringing struggles and resistance. These rival powers shaped Georgia's early destiny, testing its survival. Yet the Georgian people endured, united by stone churches, liturgy in their native tongue, and the dream of independence. The 10th century marked a turning point, when dynastic unions and military victories laid the foundations for a kingdom that would become one of Eastern Europe's most resilient states.
The unification of medieval Georgia reached its height under King Bagrat III. By the year 1008, Bagrat inherited rival crowns, bringing Kartli and Abkhazia together under one rule. This moment transformed Georgia from scattered provinces into a rising medieval kingdom. The Caucasus history remembers Bagrat as a builder and consolidator, laying the foundation for what would become a golden age. He strengthened the monarchy, reduced the power of fractious nobles, and made Christianity the soul of the realm. Cathedrals rose in Kutaisi and Mtskheta, where faith met royal authority. Georgia was no longer a divided frontier. It became a Christian stronghold at the crossroads of Eastern Europe and Asia.
Georgia's medieval identity flourished through art, faith, and fortifications. Monasteries carved into cliffs echoed with chants, while soldiers guarded mountain passes against invaders. The Caucasus, with its narrow valleys, became both shield and trap. Medieval Georgia relied on these defenses as it expanded. The kingdom's embrace of medieval Christianity distinguished it from Muslim neighbors, though trade and diplomacy tied it to the Islamic world. Silk, wine, and manuscripts crossed borders, enriching the Georgian court. At the same time, invasions from Turks and Persians tested its resilience. Yet the people's devotion to Christ and crown forged unity. This balance between openness and resistance became the hallmark of Georgia's history.
By the 11th century, medieval Georgia stood as a proud kingdom, yet it was surrounded by rivals. The Seljuk Turks swept across Asia Minor, bringing fire and fear to the Caucasus. Georgia, though battered, resisted with determination. The chronicles tell of kings who fought with faith in their banners and swords in hand. These struggles forged resilience, proving that Georgia was no easy conquest. Unlike other Eastern Europe kingdoms that faltered, medieval Georgia held its ground. Churches became sanctuaries, fortresses symbols of defiance. Even as raids devastated villages, the crown endured. In these hard years, the seeds of future greatness were planted, preparing Georgia for its golden age.
King David IV, known as David the Builder, became the architect of Georgia's strength. His reign in the late 11th and early 12th centuries marked a turning point in Caucasus history. David reorganized the army, integrating warriors from across the realm. He welcomed refugees from Armenia and beyond, strengthening Georgia's population. At Didgori in 1121, he led his forces to a stunning victory against a massive Muslim coalition. This triumph secured Georgia's independence and elevated its reputation across Eastern Europe kingdoms. David's policies emphasized medieval Christianity, scholarship, and construction. Cathedrals, bridges, and schools arose, embodying both faith and progress. Under his leadership, medieval Georgia began to shine as a Christian stronghold in the Caucasus.
The victory at Didgori became a cornerstone of medieval Georgia's glory. Chroniclers described it as a miracle, a triumph of faith over overwhelming odds. The battle not only preserved the kingdom, but also ushered in an era of expansion. Georgian armies marched beyond their borders, reclaiming territories once lost. Cities flourished, markets thrived, and monasteries became centers of learning. Medieval Christianity guided this growth as kings and bishops worked hand in hand. The memory of Didgori inspired generations, symbolizing courage and divine favor. In the annals of Caucasus history, no battle carried such lasting significance. Georgia emerged as not just a survivor, but a rising power. Following David the Builder, Georgia entered its golden age. The 12th century witnessed unprecedented prosperity. The capital, Tbilisi, became a thriving hub of culture, trade, and diplomacy. Merchants from Byzantium, Persia, and the steppes passed through its markets. Georgian artisans carved crosses, painted frescoes, and built cathedrals that rivaled the finest in Eastern Europe kingdoms. Literature blossomed, with epic poetry celebrating both love and Christian faith. Medieval Georgia became a land where culture and spirituality intertwined, attracting scholars and travelers. This flourishing was not accidental. It was the result of wise rulers and resilient people who turned hardship into opportunity. At the heart of this golden age stood Queen Tamar, one of the most remarkable monarchs of Caucasus history. Crowned in 1184, she ruled not as a consort, but as a sovereign. Medieval Georgia under Queen Tamar reached its greatest extent, stretching from the Black Sea to the Caspian. Her leadership combined diplomacy with military might. Victories over Turks and Persians secured Georgia's frontiers, while alliances brought wealth and prestige. Tamar also fostered medieval Christianity, patronizing monasteries and supporting the creation of literary masterpieces like The Knight in the Panther Skin. Under her, Georgia shone as a true Christian stronghold, admired across Eastern Europe kingdoms. Queen Tamar's reign symbolized the height of medieval Georgia. Chroniclers described her as both pious and powerful. Her armies conquered distant fortresses, while her court became a beacon of learning. The fusion of Eastern and Western traditions enriched Georgian culture. Poets, architects, and theologians thrived under her patronage. Tamar ensured that medieval Christianity guided not just worship, but also law and governance. For neighboring Eastern Europe kingdoms,
Georgia became a model of resilience and faith. The Queen's legacy endured in stone cathedrals, manuscripts, and the loyalty of her people. She proved that in the Caucasus, a woman could wield authority equal to any king.
After Queen Tamar's triumphs, medieval Georgia basked in its golden glow. Yet prosperity also brought challenges. Nobles sought greater influence, and external enemies watched with envy. Still, the realm held firm, its fortresses standing tall against invasions. The Georgian Orthodox Church flourished, linking the kingdom's identity with medieval Christianity. Pilgrims and scholars journeyed to holy sites, making Georgia a spiritual beacon in the Caucasus. This period symbolized harmony between crown and faith, with the monarch's authority seen as divinely blessed. Medieval Georgia was admired across Eastern Europe kingdoms, not only for its victories, but for the stability it nurtured amid turbulent times.
Medieval Georgia's influence extended far beyond its borders. From the Black Sea ports, ships carried wine, silk, and manuscripts to Byzantine and Crusader markets. Envoys from Europe marveled at the court of Tbilisi, describing it as radiant and learned. In Caucasus history, Georgia became a bridge between East and West, a land where Christian and Islamic worlds interacted through trade, war, and diplomacy. Queen Tamar's victories and patronage secured this international respect. By the early 13th century, Georgia's armies could project power deep into Anatolia and northern Persia, standing equal among Eastern Europe kingdoms. This was an age when Georgia commanded both awe and fear.
Yet every golden age faced its shadows. By the mid-13th century, medieval Georgia confronted new threats. The Mongols thundered into the Caucasus, their cavalry unmatched. Georgia, weakened by internal disputes, could not resist fully. The kingdom became a vassal, forced to pay tribute to the Khans. Still, Georgian kings preserved their faith and institutions. Monasteries continued to copy manuscripts, churches still stood, and the people clung to medieval Christianity as their anchor. Though diminished, Georgia endured, showing resilience in adversity. This era tested whether the Christian stronghold of the Caucasus could survive the storms of empire. The Mongol domination strained medieval Georgia, but it did not erase its spirit. Kings and nobles maneuvered between resistance and accommodation. In the Caucasus, fortresses became sanctuaries of defiance. Secret councils plotted rebellion, while priests urged perseverance. Even under Mongol rule, Georgia preserved its role as a Christian bastion. Over time, revolts erupted, proving the people's will to reclaim freedom. This resilience kept alive the memory of Georgia's golden age. Although its borders shrank and its authority weakened, the identity rooted in medieval Christianity ensured survival. For Eastern Europe kingdoms, Georgia remained a symbol of faith under siege. By the 14th century, medieval Georgia sought revival. Kings like George V, called the Brilliant, restored strength and reclaimed lost lands. His reign revived prosperity, earning Georgia respect once more in Caucasus history. Trade flourished, fortresses were rebuilt, and law was re-established under Christian principles. Yet threats lingered, from Timur's devastating invasions to rival dynasties. Still, George V's efforts gave his people hope, reminding them of the greatness achieved under David and Tamar.
medieval Christianity remained the kingdom's lifeblood, guiding not only worship, but the very identity of the nation. Though storms loomed, Georgia once again stood proud.
Timur's invasions in the late 14th century shattered much of medieval Georgia's progress. Cities burned, fortresses fell, and the kingdom's strength waned. Yet the spirit of medieval Christianity never faltered. Survivors rebuilt villages, priests preserved manuscripts, and nobles defended what remained. The Caucasus, long a crossroads of empire, became again a battlefield. Georgia's resilience lay not in sheer power, but in endurance, its ability to rise after every devastation. The chronicles of this age reflected both sorrow and hope, recording the faith of a people who refused to disappear. Even broken, Georgia remained a Christian stronghold, clinging to survival.
The 15th century saw medieval Georgia fragment. Once a united Christian stronghold, the kingdom splintered into smaller states, Imereti, Kartli, and Kakheti. Rivalry among nobles weakened defenses, while Ottoman and Persian powers grew stronger. Yet even in division, Georgia's devotion to medieval Christianity remained unshaken. Monasteries on remote mountains preserved culture, while common folk carried faith through hardship. For Eastern Europe kingdoms, Georgia's decline was a reminder of how empires could fracture. Still, in the Caucasus, the Georgian identity endured, tied inseparably to faith and memory of a golden past.
Though fragmented, medieval Georgia never lost its dream of unity. Songs and chronicles praised past kings and Queen Tamar, reminding future generations of their heritage. Pilgrimages to ancient cathedrals kept alive the link to medieval Christianity. The Caucasus, contested by empires, still bore the scars of Georgian defiance. For centuries, the kingdom remained a beacon of resistance. Its people, though divided politically, remained spiritually bound. This endurance preserved the hope that one day Georgia would rise again as a united Christian stronghold in Eastern Europe's borderlands.
The late Middle Ages brought continued hardship, but also survival. Medieval Georgia, though no longer the empire of David or Tamar, persisted as a symbol of Christian endurance in the Caucasus. Its borders shifted, but its spirit endured. Neighboring Eastern Europe kingdoms often fell under foreign rule, yet Georgia's people clung to their churches and traditions. In the chronicles, they wrote not only of battles lost, but of faith kept. This resilience shaped Georgia's destiny beyond the medieval era, ensuring that its Christian heritage would remain unbroken. Thus ended the medieval chapter of the Kingdom of Georgia, a Christian stronghold in the Caucasus. From the unification under Bagrat III to the victories of David the Builder to the glory of Queen Tamar, Georgia stood as both sword and sanctuary. Its golden age shone across Eastern Europe kingdoms, leaving a legacy of faith, culture, and resilience. Though invasions shattered its unity and foreign empires overshadowed its might, the Georgian spirit endured. Medieval Christianity gave strength where armies faltered, ensuring survival through centuries of struggle.
The Kingdom of Georgia may have declined, but its story remains one of endurance, courage, and unyielding faith. A beacon in Caucasus history that still inspires today.